Tonight, BP pays the price. Criminal charges and the largest fine in history, 2 years after the disaster in the Gulf. Manuel Bojorquez reports, and we'll hear from a survivor.
I said, we're going to burn up or we're going to jump.
Rockets rain down as Israel and the Palestinians square off. Will it be war in the Middle East? Alan Pizzi is in Tel Aviv. Nancy Cordes at the White House. Did 13 people die because they drank a high-caffeine energy drink? Dr. John LaPook puts the question to the man behind 5-Hour Energy.
Can you tell me how many milligrams of caffeine?
Well, I'm just not talking to you. I'm talking to
And a factory that makes memories is destroyed by fire. Will the bells ring again by Christmas? Chip Reed with the last bell maker.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. Today, BP pleaded guilty to criminal charges and agreed to pay the largest fine in U.S. history. More than 2 years after its drilling operation killed 11 workers and unleashed the largest accidental oil spill ever. The Deepwater Horizon exploded in the Gulf of Mexico on the night of April 20th, 2010. What followed was a seafloor gusher that ran for 85 days, spilling an estimated 172 million gallons. The company agreed to pay $4.5 billion in fines. 2 BP employees will be charged with manslaughter and a third with lying to Congress. Manuel Bojorquez is in New Orleans with details of what BP knew before the explosion.
The 2 former BP employees charged with manslaughter were the highest-ranking BP supervisors on Deepwater Horizon. They were in charge of a test that signaled grave danger the afternoon of the explosion. The test found signs that combustible gas was seeping into the well. The indictment alleges BP managers Robert Kaluza and Donald Vidrine failed to call engineers on shore to discuss the abnormal readings. Instead, they allowed work on the well to continue. The gas came up the well and exploded. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder.
This is an indication, and I hope perhaps a vindication, that we have shown, and the company has admitted, that as a result of their actions, people died there unnecessarily.
Federal authorities also charged former BP Vice President David Rainey with lying to investigators about the amount of oil leaking from the well. According to the indictment, Rainey insisted 5,000 barrels of oil were leaking every day, when he was aware that BP's own engineers estimated it was leaking as much as 82,000 barrels per day. Assistant Attorney General Lanny Brewer.
Rainey allegedly cherry-picked pages from documents, withheld other documents altogether, and lied to Congress and others to make this spill appear less catastrophic than it was.
Shelley Anderson's husband Jason died in the explosion. It was supposed to be his final day on Deepwater Horizon. She has mixed emotions about today's announcement.
I wish that we would have been able to have our day in court and that I would have been able to tell a jury exactly what our loss is, how much we miss Jason.
Next Thursday, Thanksgiving, would have been his 38th birthday.
We will never forget what Jason means to us, and that he's gone and that he's never coming back, that we live with that every single day.
The 3 men charged today say they are innocent. The attorney for one of the men called his client a scapegoat. Scott, BP's settlement with the Department of Justice ends criminal prosecution of the company, but BP could still face another $20 billion in fines if it loses a civil trial next year.
Manuel, thank you. One survivor was an engineer named Mike Williams. In an interview for 60 Minutes, Williams described his harrowing escape from the Deepwater Horizon.
I've been left now by 2 lifeboats. And I look at the captain and I said, what do we do now? By now, the fire is not only on the derrick, it's starting to spread to the deck.
About 8 survivors were left on the rig. They dropped an inflatable raft from a crane, but with only a few of the survivors on the raft, it was launched, leaving Williams, another man, and a crewwoman named Andrea.
I remember looking at Andrea and seeing that look in her eyes of she had quit, she had given up. I remember her saying, "I'm scared." And I said, "It's okay to be scared. I'm scared too." She said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to burn up or we're going to jump."
How far is it to the sea?
Maybe 90 feet, 100 feet. It's a long ways.
In the middle of the night, with blood in his eyes, fire at his back, and the sea 10 stories below, Williams made his choice.
I remember closing my eyes and saying a prayer and asking God to tell my wife, little girl, that Daddy did everything he could. And if I survive this, it's for a reason. I made those 3 steps, and I pushed off the end of the rig. And I fell for what seemed like forever. A lot of things go through your mind.
Williams and Andrea, wearing life jackets, were rescued later by fishing boats. More than 200 rockets fell on Israel today, a few of them aimed at the city of Tel Aviv. Israeli troops are massing on the border of Gaza, the tiny strip of land that's home to Palestinians and the militant group Hamas. This battle is escalating, and Alan Pizzi is in Tel Aviv tonight.
Throughout the day, the Israeli Air Force struck Gaza, but Hamas militants kept firing rockets back. Warning sirens sent Israeli civilians scurrying for shelters, and the government ordered everyone within 25 miles of the Gaza border to stay at home. The tit-for-tat violence was sparked by what the Israelis call a targeted assassination, an airstrike yesterday that killed senior Hamas military commander Ahmed al-Jabari and his son. Today, more than 1,000 people turned out for his funeral and vowed to hit Tel Aviv in revenge. Hundreds more rockets were fired into southern Israel, most of which were intercepted by a sophisticated Israeli anti-missile system dubbed Iron Dome. The rockets are relatively small, but Hamas is thought to have as many as 10,000 of them. Fire enough, and some will get through. An Israeli family of 3 was killed when one struck this apartment building 20 miles from Gaza. Mesodi Sugavker lives next door and refused to leave.
It's my place, it's my city. I love this place.
Even though another rocket could come in any time?
Even 10 times, it's my place.
There have been more than 750 this year. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel won't tolerate any more.
I hope that Hamas and the other terror organizations in Gaza got the message. If not, Israel is prepared to take whatever action is necessary to defend our people.
As night fell, there was no let-up. Gaza was being pounded. At least 2 rockets landed near Tel Aviv, and the military warned citizens to expect a busy night. Israeli ground troops are massing along the Gaza border, and people here are taking the warning signs very seriously. Tel Aviv is known as a party town. Tonight, streets that are normally bustling are practically deserted.
A lot of uncertainty going into the night. Alan, thank you. President Obama picked up the phone today, hoping to prevent an all-out war. Nancy Cordes is at the White House for us tonight. Nancy?
Scott, both the president and the vice president have now spoken to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. And despite some tensions between these leaders recently, we're told that the 2 men expressed their support for Israel's right to defend itself, while also urging him to try to limit civilian casualties. White House officials told us today that the onus is on Hamas and not on Israel to try to de-escalate this conflict. They say they've reached out to other allies in the region like Turkey, asking them to pass that message along to Hamas as well. In fact, Secretary of State Clinton, we're told, reached out to Egypt's foreign minister today, asking him to deliver that message personally when he visits Gaza tomorrow. Scott.
Nancy, thank you very much. Today, a congressional investigation had a look at video recorded by security cameras the night of the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. As you know, 4 Americans were killed this past September 11th, including the U.S. ambassador. There has been a lot of controversy about whether the attack was planned by terrorists or the result of a mob angered by an internet movie ridiculing Islam. The videos were seen behind closed doors today, but David Martin's sources have told him what they show.
The first video of the attack was captured by cell phones, but it took about 10 more days for the FBI to get its hands on video taken by security cameras at the consulate. That classified video, shown to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, answers some of the many questions surrounding the attack. A U.S. intelligence official said it shows no sign the assault arose as first thought out of a demonstration. But it also indicates the attack, though intentional, was not well planned. The video makes clear the attackers did not know the layout of the compound. The attack lasted about an hour and ended with the consulate in flames, a scene captured by a surveillance drone overhead. The surviving Americans retreated to a CIA safe house about a mile away, where they continued to take fire from small arms and rocket-propelled grenades. After another hour, the shooting stopped. For 4 hours, no shots were fired, giving a rescue team flown in from Tripoli time to make its way to the annex. 10 minutes after the rescuers arrived, a second attack began, this time with mortars. That attack was also captured on video, both by security cameras and a drone overhead, and it shows a more organized and deliberate assault than the one on the consulate. Intercepted phone calls and text messages from that night indicate some of those who attacked the consulate were inspired in part by televised scenes of protesters storming the American embassy in Cairo in rage over an anti-Muslim video running on the internet. Others seem to have nothing more in mind than looting. That first attack created an opportunity for the second attack, the one on the annex. Whether it was planned that way all along is not clear.
U.S. officials say the 4-hour lull gave the attackers time to bring up more firepower in the form of mortars. They fired 5 rounds. The first 2 missed. The next 3 hit.
David, thank you. Is there a link between energy drinks and 13 deaths? China announces a new leader, and the president makes a promise to victims of Sandy when the CBS Evening News continues. Today, the president visited victims of Hurricane Sandy on Staten Island. He promised to stick with them until the rebuilding is complete. 34,000 New Yorkers are still without power. The Food and Drug Administration is investigating energy drinks. There are claims that 13 deaths may be linked to 5-Hour Energy. Dr. John Lapook spoke to the CEO of 5-Hour Energy, Manoj Bhargava.
What's in 5-Hour Energy? What are the ingredients?
I don't remember all of them, but certainly, amino acids are the main ingredients, and there's some caffeine.
How much caffeine?
About as much as medium Starbucks.
Can you tell me how many milligrams of caffeine?
Well, I'm just not talking to you. I'm talking to those who are watching.
I spoke to a pediatric cardiologist today. He said, you know what? For most people, 1 little 2-ounce shot is probably safe, but for those susceptible kids who have an underlying problem, it may throw them over and give them an irregular heartbeat that could kill them. And in fact, that may have been what happened with one young woman.
Well, I think if you look at it, any product, let's say a young person is susceptible to peanuts. Definitely the doctor should tell them don't have peanuts. If a young person is susceptible, has this heart condition, then the doctor should say, look, you shouldn't have anything with caffeine in it. Now, if they then go have peanuts, then you say, well, let's ban peanuts. Well, peanuts are really bad guys. Well, that kind of is silly.
The American Academy of Pediatrics says that adolescents should never use energy drinks, which includes drinks like yours. And that means kids under the age of 18. But your label specifically says that it shouldn't be used by kids under the age of 12. Why the difference?
Well, I don't know that they say that. I've never heard that before. But certainly, I'm sure they've got wonderful opinions. There are other doctors that have different opinions. So I don't know if it's relevant.
Now that you know that the American Academy of Pediatrics says don't take this type of a drink if you're 18 or under, are you going to change your label?
Well, certainly I would look to the lawyers to deal with that issue. And I agree with you. If that's what they recommend, then we should do that.
Scott, during the entire interview, he would never tell me exactly how many milligrams of caffeine are in his product, saying people couldn't interpret that number. And I think that reflects one of the big issues here. These products are not required to say on the label exactly what's in them.
John, thank you very much. China's new president once lived in a cave. His story is next. China's Communist Party introduced its new leadership today. Xi Jinping was named head of the party, which will make him president and head of the military. Xi's family has become extremely wealthy, but Bill Whitaker tells us it wasn't always that way.
59-year-old Xi Jinping will lead the most populous country on earth, but his political life began in a smaller place, Liangjiahe, a village of 800 in Shanxi province. Even today, the land is hard, making a living is harder. In 1969, during the violent upheaval of the Cultural Revolution, elites were attacked. Xi's father, a vice premier, was denounced and imprisoned. Xi was exiled to this remote village at the age of 15. For 7 years, Xi worked in the fields during the day and at night came home to a cave dwelling, much like this. One room carved into a hillside. They're all over these mountains. The locals say here he learned to eat bitterness. It's a Chinese saying that means he learned to endure hardship. We say a cave like this because villagers refused to let us see Xi's cave. The police copied our passports. Men followed us. The current occupant closed the gate on us. No one ever told us why. In the nearby city of Yan'an, we met a friendlier man doing morning exercises, 59-year-old retired construction worker Xu Ningru. He met China's new president back in 1969, a chaotic time, he told us. He did hard physical work? Of course, said Mr. Xu. He did farm work. He herded cows. It was a world away from Xi's life in Beijing, the pampered child of the communist elite. Xi, at ease with peasants and the powerful, left exile and excelled at party politics. He ran China's biggest city, Shanghai, and its biggest event, the 2008 Olympics. Today, Xi is half of China's glamour couple, his wife one of the country's most popular singers. He takes the helm as China's economy is slowing down and trade tensions with the U.S. are going up. Do you think his time here will make him a better leader? He suffered extreme hardship, Xu told us. He must have learned from that. Xi Jinping says whenever he encounters troubles, he thinks back to his days here. Then nothing seems too difficult. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Shanxi Province, China.
An American company rises from the ashes, a story with a ring to it. Next.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Prudential, sponsors of DayOneStories.com. Prudential, bring your challenges.
Finally tonight, we're approaching the season of bells. Sleigh bells, bells at the door of the mall. There was a time that those bells were made in America, but eventually there was only one factory left producing the sound of Christmas. And now it's gone. But Chip Reed tells us the owner refuses to surrender to a silent night.
Beneath the melted metal and burned bricks, 45-year-old Matt Bevan searched for a familiar sound. For 180 years, this was the site of his family business, Bevan Brothers. But in May, lightning destroyed his family's history.
To know that my ancestors for 6 generations have stood on this exact spot and made bells in Belltown, USA, means a lot to me.
East Hampton, Connecticut is called Belltown, USA because there were once more than 30 bell makers here. Bevan was the last one. Bevan Brothers made the first bicycle bell in 1865. In 1923, Bevan's bells started calling children to the Good Humor ice cream truck, and one of its bells had a starring role in the Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Today, Matt Bevan is starting over. 14 of his 27 employees are back at work in this temporary factory, trying to refill their biggest order, 25,000 bells for the Salvation Army's kettle ringers.
We aren't just making widgets. We're not even just in the bell business. We're in the memory business. We're making memories.
Since the fire, hundreds of those memories have made their way to his mailbox in the form of handwritten letters, all from people who wanted to share their own Bell story.
I'm gonna start crying. I'm glad your bells are still made in the United States of America.
Bevan vows to rebuild where this rubble now lies.
What is it about bells that so move people?
When you think about a bell, it's just two little pieces of metal banging together. But they symbolize something much greater. They symbolize dreams. They symbolize joy. They symbolize memories. They symbolize hope for people. It won't sound good, I can tell you that right now.
That sounds all right. A hope that the memories once created here will one day ring above the ashes. Chip Reed, CBS News, East Hampton, Connecticut.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For all of us at CBS News all around the world, good night.